Preparing for live right now.
Yeah, by 6:30, I think like we should see the ramp.
Preparing for live right now.
Yeah, by 6:30, I think like we should see the ramp.
Preparing for live right now.
Rocket launch లో ఉంది.
Yeah, by 6:30, I think like we should see the ramp. Oh my God.
I think repeat అవుతుంది కదా.
ఓ రిపీట్ అవుతుంది.
Preparing for live right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, we'll just keep this open for a few minutes for others to join. Right now we have about 50, but let's give about 2 to 3 minutes for everyone to join.
Yeah. Minimum 100 అయితారు ఒక 5 minutes లో.
Yep.
Then we start. Yeah.
Somesh has joined. Akka,
Starting
can you make
message
him
ఎవరు
co-host?
చూస్తున్నారు? ఎవరో చాట్ చేస్తున్నారు.
Kavita, can you make Somesh for G co-host? He also joined.
Pradeep C.
Somesh, you there? I think I have to unmute him. Okay, one sec.
Yeah, I'm doing.
Okay.
Pradeep C.
Somesh, you there? I think I have to unmute him. Okay, one sec.
Okay, I'm here. Yeah,
I'm doing.
I think someone has multiple systems.
Somesh, you there?
System. Yeah, someone has logged into multiple systems. We are getting echo.
No, that's part of recording, but like that will be
Okay.
addressed. Yeah.
Okay. System. Yeah, someone has logged into multiple systems. We are getting echo.
రిపీట్ అవుతుంది.
No, that's
అది
part of
యూట్యూబ్
recording, but
యూట్యూబ్ లో లైవ్ వల్ల అది
Exactly. Yeah.
YouTube and
Yeah, someone
Facebook
has
కూడా
logged
లైవ్
into multiple
పెట్టండి.
systems.
Facebook కూడా లైవ్ పెట్టండి.
ఫేస్బుక్ లో పెట్టలేము, ఒకటి
పెట్టలేమా?
పెట్టగలుగుతాం.
ఓకే.
I think ఇది repeat అవుతుంది కదా, so it will be an issue.
నో ఐ థింక్ వి షుడ్ బి గుడ్ నౌ. అది హోస్ట్ నుంచి పెట్టింది కాబట్టి హోస్ట్ మ్యూట్ లో ఉంది ఇప్పుడు. సో ఐ థింక్ ఇప్పుడు వినిపించదు. కవిత
So
గారి
host needs to be mute all the time, right? I think ఇది repeat అవుతుంది కదా. Yeah.
జస్ట్ స్టార్టింగ్ కపుల్ ఆఫ్ మినిట్స్ మాత్రమే ఉంటుంది. యూజ్ చేయని వాళ్ళందరూ మ్యూట్ చేసుకుంటే బెటర్ ఏమో.
హూఆర్ ఓపెన్ ద యూట్యూబ్, అది వాళ్ళు మ్యూట్ లో ఉండాలి.
So now we have 75.
Yeah, good. People are joining.
Yeah. Let's give another 2 minutes and maybe we can get started.
Yeah.
Because initially it's going to be introduction and other stuff, right?
సో కవిత అది గదీన్ అంట కోర్స్ ఏవో.
చేద్దాం because there are other things we can. I'm trying to share the YouTube link.
I got the link అక్క. నేను ఆల్రెడీ షేర్ చేస్తున్నాను లింక్ ని.
Share the YouTube link.
Yeah, the tiny URL is causing some issue, I guess. Like wherever you have posted name.
I got the link అక్క. నేను ఆల్రెడీ షేర్ చేస్తున్నాను లింక్ ని.
Share the YouTube link.
Yeah, the tiny URL is causing some issue, I guess. Like where.
think we should get started.
ఇక్కడ జూమ్ రికార్డింగ్ ఆన్ చేయాలక్క.
Think we should get started.
ఐ థింక్ యూట్యూబ్ లో అది మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టాలి మీరు.
జూమ్ రికార్డింగ్ ఆన్.
Think we should get started.
Oh my God.
ఐ థింక్ యూట్యూబ్ లో అది మ్యూట్ లో పెట్టాలి మీరు.
జూమ్ రికార్డింగ్ ఆన్.
All this time it was me, I guess. So sorry. It was not. Thank you, Shiva. But yeah, we can get started, and recording has been started as well.
Shall we
Okay.
start?
ఓకే జ్యోతి గారు ప్లీజ్ గో అహెడ్.
Yeah. Welcome to TTA Immigration webinar, and thank you all of you who joined so far. And myself, Jyoti Reddy from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm serving as International Services Director to TTA. And it is great to work with honorable, respectable, prestigious organization, Telangana American Telugu Association. And obviously, it is indeed a webinar today for F-1 visa, H-1 visa, and green card people who is going through the pain. And it is a panic moment that is indeed a seminar and indeed webinar for all needed people. And thank you very much, Santosh Reddy Somireddy garu, for helping us today to TTA. And welcome to President Naveen Reddy Malipeddi garu, and welcome to Dr. Vijaypal Reddy garu, and our advisory chair and advisory co-chair Mohan Reddy Patlola garu, and advisory member TTA Bharat Madadi garu, and also member advisory member Srinivas Anu garu, as well as past president Mr. Vamshi Reddy Kancharkuntla garu, and our prestigious EC members and extended EC members, BODs, SCs, and RVPs, and standard committee chairs, and welcome you all, and thanks for joining. And also regarding our organization, Telangana American Telugu Association, it is Telugu Kalala Tota, Telangana Sevala Kota. And definitely our organization is helping indeed services for all celebrating Indian festivals as well as national events, organizing regular person seminars for virtual webinar immigration webinars, and health and well-being and tax webinars, and career guidance and IT trainings, financial literacy, and also charity events. And in the name of Sevalakota, TTA Seva Days program, every year we are doing from past 10 years, and it is the 10th year celebration will be there in India. And thank you, our founder, Paila Mallareddy garu, who is doing all this on behalf of Telugu people in America and back in India. Thank you very much, Mallareddy garu. You are the one who making difference in India and America for Telugu people. And also going to forward this to Mr. Praveen Samala, who is the BOD from Arizona State. Brother, you take over about introducing Somireddy garu. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Jyotaka, and very nice words about TT and our leadership. And yeah, we take a great privilege to introduce Santosh Reddy Somireddy garu, and he's championing justice with his expertise and passion. So, and he kindly agreed to join us this evening to help the community, and his selfless efforts are truly appreciated. And TTA recognizes he's one of the champions for anything related to legal and immigration. So, myself, Praveen Samla, I'm the chair for legal and immigration for TTA. And today we are going to talk about the issues, the most happening issues, which is creating a lot of ruckus and noise everywhere, right? Like, because with the new administration, we are like even students, employees, employers, everyone is having a lot of challenges. So we thought, like, to help the community, TTA has come forward to just whatever we could do within that is something which is within our perimeter. So we reached out to one of our top attorneys, and Somireddy kindly agreed to join this webinar and help us understand some of the changing dynamics. So today we are going to touch upon a lot of important topics like F-1 SEVIS revocations, because a lot of students are facing hardships these days. And so just to give the brief insights on what really happening. So he's going to touch upon that. And also, after Trump administration, there's been some modernization happening in H1B. So he's going to touch upon that. And also, we have been hearing a lot of rumors about green cards and naturalizations. So yeah, now I'll pass it on to Somireddy, Santosh Reddy Garu, to talk about what's really happening, to give a high level insights on what's really happening right now in the new administration and what precautions have been taken. And then I will based on like what's been understood, like I may have few questions that I will pose to Santosh Garu, and then it will be open to public and all the audience. Maybe you can type in your questions. So Vinod and Santosh will read them, and we'll run the public Q&A sessions. And over to you, Santosh Garu. Thank you so much for joining us to this evening.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, TTA team, for arranging this webinar. I'm sure it'll make it as fruitful as possible. But thank you for giving this opportunity to speak in front of all of you guys. First, before we start, right, a small disclaimer. So anything that we discuss here should be considered as a friendly advice. This does not create an attorney-client privilege. So please do not act upon any information that is provided in this seminar until you seek the assistance of an independent counsel. Neither TTA nor Somireddy Law Group is responsible for any omissions or mistakes in this webinar. Okay. Sorry, I had to give that disclaimer because just want to make sure we are all protected. My name is Santosh Reddy Somireddy, and I'm the founder of Somireddy Law Group. We are a full-service law firm with offices in Virginia, New Jersey, North Carolina. We just started one in California and then India. Our core areas of practice include immigration, litigation, corporate employment, and criminal law. So myself, I practice mostly immigration. We do a lot of employment litigation and a little bit of criminal law too. So to dive into the topic, right? So the most pressing issue right now is with these student SEVIS terminations. I don't know how many of you have seen my webinar before, but approximately 15 days ago, when we went online and we mentioned that, hey, students are receiving SEVIS terminations. At that time, there were only very few people who received SEVIS terminations. Like there were like only a handful of them. But now there are thousands of students who got affected with the SEVIS terminations. So I know you may be seeing news that, hey, there are 300 people, 400 people, 500 people, 1,000 people. That's not the true number, because we ourselves have more than 1,000 students who have been affected by the SEVIS termination. So if you are one of the people who got received SEVIS termination, you're not allowed. There are a lot of thousands of students who got affected with this one. So basically, this is what happened. Until 2 weeks ago, if any student got charged with a crime, right, their visa used to be revoked, right? So if the visa is revoked by the embassy, then the person cannot use that visa in order to travel outside the country. But the person was allowed to stay in the country, continue his studies, and then work if they're on OPT or CPT. Okay. What changed recently is the fact that apart from revoking their visas, now DHS is terminating their SEVIS, right? SEVIS is something that is needed for the person for an F1 student to legally stay, study, or work in the US. So if their SEVIS is not active, they cannot continue staying in the country. In the last 15 days, what's been happening is students have been receiving SEVIS termination emails from their university. Okay, so any student who was either arrested or fingerprinted for any reason, it didn't matter whether the person was actually charged with a misdemeanor, felony, traffic offense, doesn't matter. As long as they were fingerprinted or arrested, they got affected with this. And it looks like still there are students who are receiving SEVIS terminations. There are a lot of because even in the last couple of days, there are new students who receive service termination. So I think it's happening one after the other. So if there is anyone on this seminar who is an F1 student, and if you believe that you are either fingerprinted or arrested for any reason, even if the charge was ultimately dropped or dismissed, right? I recommend that you either apply for a change of you apply for a change of status, because once your service is terminated, then you will be incurring you'll be out of status immediately. Okay, and unfortunately, there is no proper grace period once a person's service is terminated. So typically, you're required to leave the country or within 15 days, right? But it's not a hard and fast rule. So in case if a person, like for example, we have had a lot of cases wherein the service terminations happen for silly reasons. I'll give you some of the reasons why service terminations happen. If a person got charged with any reckless driving, right? Driving without a driver's license, driving with suspended license, driving without insurance, right? Or DUIs, shoplifting, public intoxication, domestic violence, all sort of cases. So in each of these cases, what would have happened is that the person would have either been arrested for a few minutes or they would have been fingerprinted. Okay, so now, even if for example, in most of these cases, what happened is, I'll give one example. In some other states, whenever there is an issue of domestic violence, for example, maybe there was a boyfriend, girlfriend, they had an argument and somebody would have called the cops, right? So whenever the cops arrive, they have to arrest at least one of the individuals present in that house. It's mandatory. Okay, so it so happened that in few cases, the police has to arrest one of the candidate, and immediately the next day they dismiss the charges. So the prosecution did not find that there was enough evidence to charge the person, right? So they dropped the charges. So even in those cases, people received service terminations. Okay, the other thing is, please be very careful when dealing with insurance companies. So lying to an insurance company is a felony. Okay, a lot of people, what they do is they take in for example, maybe they had a windshield break, or maybe they went with a small accident. Then before the windshield break, they may not have had that insurance to cover the windshield, right? But now at a later point of time, they'll try to get that insurance and then claim that, hey, this happened now. Okay, that's actually a felony. Okay, it's a very big crime. So please do not lie to any insurance officers. Okay, so we are currently going through a situation with one of the clients wherein the person actually lied to the insurance agent, and because of which he's charged with a felony. And unfortunately, and also what happens in this case is that the person moved from one state to another state. So he was receiving notices from the courthouse to this old address. And then since he moved to another state, he was not aware that there was an arrest warrant issued on his name. So once in a while, maybe it's worth for you to do your own criminal background check to see, especially when you move your houses, right? To check your background, the criminal background. Okay, the same thing applies for traffic tickets also. So maybe if somebody is charged with a traffic ticket and then they receive the ticket to their home address and then maybe they move to a different address. So if they don't appear in court or pay the fine, then there could be an arrest warrant issued on that person. Okay, so just be cautious so that you will not be in that situation. Now, what happens? What are the options available if a person's service is terminated, right? So technically, they have two options, right? Option number one is to leave the country, okay, as soon as it's practicable. Okay, option number two is to file for a reinstatement and then litigate the matter in the court. Okay, I'll give you the pros and cons of each of these options, right? So if you leave the country, so we are advising people who have no criminal background, or maybe their case got dismissed, right? And maybe they have a H1B that's picked up in the lottery, right? In those cases, I'm recommending that they leave the country because even if you apply for reinstatement while in the US, you cannot continue working or studying in the school. So if they're on OPT and if they have a job and if there's an employer like who is willing to file his H-1B, right? So maybe it's worth for the individual to just go back to his home country, maybe India or wherever, continue working from there, file the H-1B, get a H-1B visa stamping and come back in, okay? Especially if they're not actually convicted of any crime. Okay, or maybe they're convicted of a crime that does not lead to a level of inadmissibility. So maybe it's a small DUI, or maybe it's reckless driving, right? Or maybe they were charged with a crime which got dismissed. So in those cases, I recommend that the person leave the country and then come back with a fresh visa. So what happens if a person does not leave the country, right? So far we have 3 reports of ICE agents going to students' homes, right? The first one happened almost more than a week ago, wherein the ICE officials went to the individual's home because, and then in that case, actually his case got dismissed. He was charged with domestic violence, but his case got dismissed. Sorry, it was a kidnapping charge, okay, but the case got dismissed. So the ICE official went to his home, and luckily we were able to talk to the ICE official and then convince them that he's going to be leaving in a few days, which he did. Okay, but if we are not able to convince the ICE official, then they might detain the candidate. Okay, the problem with detention is if a person is put through the detention, then it'll be hard for us to get him out of the detention and request for voluntary departure quickly, because usually it takes at least 2 to 3 months before we can even request for voluntary departure. Okay, so that is the worst situation, right? So in the other two cases that I'm talking about, so in both the cases, the student was not present at home. In one case, he has sent us the videos to show that the agents have come to his home. The third case, I don't have a proof that this is the information that I received is from the student, that somebody has come to his home, but I don't have the proper proof for that. But we have proofs for 2 instances wherein the ICE officials have come to the student's home. Okay, so based on our conversation with the ICE officials, just because someone has filed for reinstatement does not mean that they are not deportable, because they are still considered to be out of status until their reinstatement is approved. Okay, so previously we used to file 1 or 2 reinstatement applications in a month maximum, right? But now USCIS is flooded with hundreds of reinstatement applications. Okay, so previously they used to take 7 to 8 months, but now we don't know how long they will take to review these reinstatement applications. But at least having this reinstatement application, and if it gets approved, then the service will be reinstated. So it's better for them to file for reinstatement if they are not willing to travel outside the country. Second thing, what we are trying to do is we are trying to file litigation in the court. We filed one last week in the New Jersey Federal Court, and we are now looking at filing class action lawsuits in the same federal court. Okay, so basically by requesting for a temporary restraining order, we can ask the judge is going to ask the DHS to temporarily hold off on their SEVIS terminations while the case is pending in the court. Okay, so we are trying to hit for that one, so that while the case is still pending with the court, their service will be reinstated. So if that happens, then they can continue studying and then also working while on their OPT, and there is no issue of ICE coming them picking up because they are in status. Okay, so far there are a few courts that have been favorable. So New Hampshire court has ruled in favor of the student. There is one in California also, they ruled in favor of the students. So we have decided that we'll continue to file more of these litigation matters in New Jersey Federal Court. So the other thing is this has to do more with political situation also. So that is one of the reasons why we are choosing the New Jersey Federal Court for this. Okay, so now I would like to take some questions on the SEVIS terminations. In that way, we can go through this. The other thing
I
is,
think like
if you do
yeah.
not, one last thing before I stop. Okay, so if a person is, if this reinstatement is denied for any reason, right, the person will start accruing unlawful presence from that day. A person who accrues more than 180 days of unlawful presence is barred for 3 years from entering to the country. If a person is has accrued more than 1 year of unlawful presence, is barred for 10 years from entering into the country. Okay. The other thing is, in case if ICE official picks them and puts to the deportation, then they are usually charged with under section 231A1C1. I know it's, but whenever a person is charged with that one, their chance of coming back into the country will be low. Okay, so that was the reason why I said, like, hey, if you do not have any criminal conviction, right? If you don't have any criminal conviction, if you've been just charged and then dismissed, better to leave the country, go for stamping and come back. In that way, you don't have to worry about waiting all this time for reinstatement to happen, and you don't have to worry about ICE picking you up. Or the good thing is, at least the courts are reviewing these quickly, right? But not all courts are acting the same way. So that's one issue that you'll be facing.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Attorney
Thank you.
Santosh Garu. So, yeah, you have pretty much touched upon all the important points. And so, one common question that everyone would have is like, I know like we've been hearing all this ruckus happening currently, but how do we like avoid it? Like, definitely students have to avoid it. Otherwise, that is going
Yeah.
to impact their career in a bad way. Like, how can someone totally avoid it?
Just be cautious. Don't get involved in any criminal activities, especially with like DUIs or most of these students have either DUI or reckless driving and shoplifting.
Shoplifting,
Shoplifting, in most of the cases, it so happened that they go out for shopping with their roommates or friends. One person does this, everybody gets affected. Okay, so please stay away from such friends who get involved in those kind of activities, and also be cautious and do not drive without driver's license. Even if you have an international driver's permit, please do not do so. Make sure you have proper insurance, right? Don't drink and drive, and also public intoxication. Just be careful when you're drunk.
So I'm sure like we have a lot of SEVIS regulations. So how do you want to talk about a few things like
Yeah.
which they have to really aware of? Because I know
Yes.
like, a lot of our guys or students sometimes we overlook and we just sign wherever it is required, but we don't deep dive and read into all the details. So
Yeah.
could you touch upon like the core important pointers that everyone has to keep in mind?
Yeah. So usually service termination was done by the DSOs. Okay. So district school official. This is a designated school official, right? So the DSOs typically used to terminate the service if a person did not maintain his grades or did not pay for the tuition fees, or if they found out that the person was working without authorization. This especially happens when a person, for example, if they receive an OPT approval, right, in their email, and they immediately start working. This has happened to me many times, wherein the person start working as soon as they have an OPT approval email. They should not do that until they receive the card. So why if the DSO realizes that, hey, this person started working just soon after receiving the approval notice and not the card, they might terminate your service. Okay. Also, do not get involved in any protests that are against the interests of the United States of America. Okay, this is very, 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 very important. They are monitoring all the social media accounts, everything.
Yeah, sometimes what I've noticed is a lot of students, like they are in haste, and as they come from India, they feel that they are still in India. So we have to respect the law of land. So that is what you're trying to say. We have to read
Yeah.
and understand and digest every law and we have to respect that because yeah.
Yeah, and also public intoxication. The other thing is domestic violence. A lot of times what happens is the students, maybe they have a party and all, and then they end up in a fight.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a bunch of cases where students got affected just because of this. And it's all between with their friends only. It's not like they have any hatred against the other person, but just because they were drunk and then whatever happened. So just be cautious with that too.
Sure.
Okay.
And,
And also, if you are traveling, I'm sorry, last one thing. Also, if you're traveling to India, please make sure to come back into the United States before your course start date. Okay. For some reason, a lot of students end up coming like 1 day, 2 day, 3 days after their course has started. Okay, that is a problem. Second thing is make sure that you register for the classes before coming here and also pay the fee payment. Okay, and next thing is avoid traveling through Abu Dhabi or any other airport where the port of entry is in a different country, especially if you're connecting. Okay, because especially if you're carrying like stuff like pickles or something like that, because whenever you have to go through secondary inspection in these places, so second inspection might take like a couple of hours, maybe 3, 4 or 5 hours too, right? By the time this guy's flight would have already missed. So they will come up with some reason, okay, to deport that person. Maybe they'll check their emails, they'll check their phones. Because if they check the phone, they'll find something else or the other, right? Worst case, they'll probably find a resume that is fabricated. Right? So stay away from, like, I would not recommend traveling through such airports. So let me go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And I know, like, we were talking about the processing time for the reinstatement. So, like, a lot of people who definitely have that lingering in their mind, that is there a premium process to expedite that?
Unfortunately, there's no premium processing for reinstatement. There is premium processing if you're applying for a change of status to F1, but there is no premium processing for reinstatement itself.
Okay. And if someone is, say, like, actively working in any federal project or any private organization, so how does it impact their employment when the
So
reinstatement
once
is in
the
the process?
service is terminated, they have to stop working.
So though we
Okay.
have initiated the reinstatement,
Doesn't matter, right? So until the reinstatement is approved, they are not in F1 status. So they cannot study, they cannot work. I know some universities are talking about allowing the students to study, but I don't think that's not actually allowed though. Okay. So the other problem that these students will face is that if you're on OPT, right, you would have already graduated from school. So they may not issue a reinstatement I-20. If this happens, then you may have to get an I-20 from a different school.
okay.
Right, for filing the reinstatement. So if you're in OPT, then maybe it's worth for you to just file a litigation in the court, so that if it happens quickly, then if the court reviews it quickly, then the service could be reinstated, at least for temporary purposes. And I'm sure, like, I know there are a lot of courts that have been issuing reinstatement orders. Some are not, but most of them are. But this case is definitely going to go to Supreme Court pretty soon.
Okay. So
One of the biggest, yeah.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the biggest challenges that we could face if this case go to Supreme Court is the authority of the DHS in terminating service or terminating the immigration service records of the students, because there is a case law where this which gives more power to DHS in such situations. But again, now this is happening without proper due process. So that's what we are using to say that, hey, what DHS is doing is incorrect.
Okay. And did you observe any cases where they received SEVIS termination for green card holders?
SEVIS applies only to F1 students.
F1
So
students.
green card holders doesn't.
Green card doesn't apply for that.
No,
Okay.
it doesn't apply.
Just in case, how does it impact the green, if in future, say like his SEVIS is terminated now, in future, once he gets the green card, do you foresee any impact because of this?
No. And again, if just because their service is terminated does not mean that they have a criminal background. Okay, because anyone who was fingerprinted or arrested received the service terminations, right? So most of these people are eligible to get a visa. For example, if you're charged with reckless driving, you can still get a visa, right? If you're charged with a DUI, if it's one-time DUI, especially if the blood alcohol level is less than 2 or 0.2, no issues. You can easily get the visa. If a person is charged with public intoxication, or sometimes in misdemeanor shoplifting case also, if they fall under the petty theft offense exception, right? And if that's the only case that they have, then they could be eligible for a visa, right? But the petty theft offense exception is something that's the worst situation. We don't want to get to that one. But for other crimes, yes, you still have you're still eligible to receive a visa. So that's why instead of having to go through all these issues, right? I was recommending, like, especially for those people whose H1B got picked up in lottery, maybe it's worth for them to just go get the stamping and then come back in. That way, they can continue working on their project from India. Let them employer file the H1B. They can go for H1B stamping, come back in. If they don't do that, the other option is for the employer to file H1B with a change of status from F1 to H1, but the change of status would not be approved until there is a reinstatement.
Right.
That's approved, right? So if it doesn't get approved, then they'll have to anyways go for H1B stamping, right? But in this time, they have been out of status for such a long time, right? So their chances of getting a visa could go down because of that reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and now I know, like, now it's H1B registration is done. A lot of students would have already picked, and most of them would obviously have a job. But what do you advise? Like, do they still move forward?
For those people whose H1B got picked, they will lose their job if they wait for SEVIS to be reinstated and all that stuff, right? Because practically none of the clients would would issue a client letter or a vendor letter for them to continue, for them to process the H1B, especially if they are not working, right? So in those cases, I highly recommend that they go back to the home country so they can at least continue working, get the documentation to file H1B, get the H1B approval, right? Go for stamping and then come back here.
All right, got it. Yeah, definitely great insights, attorney Santosh Somireddy garu. So yeah, maybe we can touch upon a few pointers on, like, our next topic, like H1B modernization, a little bit about it, and what are the key regulations that we have to be aware of, and how it's going to impact our current and future applicants. So if you can throw some light on that, and then, like, yeah, that would be.
So I'll go through a few main important pointers that everybody should be aware of when it comes to the H1B modernization rules. Okay. First thing, H1B modernization rules were not implemented by the Trump administration. So Trump administration has nothing to do with the H1B modernization rules, right? So these were implemented during the Biden's administration. So they are right now, I don't think they are going to make any changes to those modernization rules. So here are the key things that we need to be aware of. Number one, now in order to show that there is a bona fide job offer, we need to show that there is a non-speculative work available for the candidate, right? So to do so, we have to provide either documents like contracts, MSAs, purchase orders, vendor letter or client letter to show that there's actual work available for the candidate. That's one of the big changes, right? So you don't have to for that reason, you don't have to provide everything. Like, for example, even if you have an MSA purchase order, that's sufficient to show that you actually have the work available for the candidate. Okay. Unlike before, where you are providing a client letter or vendor letter even to show that the employer has a right of control, right? So the right of control is not an issue right now. Okay. So for that one, even if you have a contract, just MSA purchase order, that should be more than enough. Okay. Second thing, in order to prove that the position qualifies for a specialty occupation, okay, and if the position involves working from a third-party location, then USCIS wants the position requirements to come from the third party, which is the client. Okay, this could pose a bigger challenge because now we want the position requirements to come from the client. So for that one, you may need a client letter. If you're not able to obtain a client letter, then we need some document to show that the client requires this one. So it could be a job ad that the client has posted or sent to you for at the time of recruiting the candidate, right? So if the client has sent a notification saying that, hey, we need a Java developer who has a bachelor's degree in computer science or related field, plus whatever years of experience, then we can use that instead of a client letter. Okay, so previously we used to require client letter to prove two things. One is the specialty occupation. The second thing is right of control. So at that time, it was very important for us to get a client letter. But now, in this modernization rule, even if you do not have a client letter, you can have the MSA, purchase order, and some document that the client is requiring so-and-so degree for the position. But here there is another challenge. Most of the times what happens is the clients mention that the position requires a bachelor's degree, but they will not mention which field it is. So they'll just say bachelor's degree. They'll not mention the field, right? So now it becomes too broad and it may not qualify for specialty occupation. That's one challenge. The second challenge is the clients, whenever they mention the position requirement, they'll also mention the experience requirement, right? So if they say that the position requires 5 years of experience or 10 years experience, then you may have to pay them level 4, level 3 wages. Right. So you got to be very cautious in doing this one. The next thing, are we clear on these two?
Yep.
Okay. The next thing is now FDNS visits. Okay. So now compliance with FDNS visit is mandatory. Okay. So I'll tell you the difference because there's a lot of misconception about this one. It does not mean that every case is going to get an FDNS visit. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is, if there is an FDNS visit, if an officer comes to you, right? Now the officer has more teeth. If you do not provide them with the necessary documentation, then they can actually revoke that H1B or deny that H1B is still pending with USCIS. Okay, so previously, what used to happen is whenever, especially if there is an in-house project which is confidential, which has some confidential information, whenever there is a FDNS visit, the clients or the attorney used to just tell them, hey, we're not going to provide you with the information because it's confidential. And then still, the officer did not have the authority to actually revoke the petition. But instead, they would typically issue a notice of intent to revoke. And when we receive that one, we used to handle it in such a way that they cannot revoke the petitions. But now, with making the FDNS visit mandatory, compliance with FDNS visit mandatory, you don't have that option. Does it make that? Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people are thinking that just the FDN, like when they say FDN compliance with FDN visit is mandatory, they're thinking that every case is going to get FDN visit. That's not true. Okay. So the next other important thing is with the cap gap, right? So until now, we used to receive cap gap only until October 1st, right? With this new regulations, you're eligible to receive cap gap until April 1st. Okay, but the cap gap only applies if a person has filed for a change of status from F1 to H1. Okay, that too only if the person has been on OPT status at the time of filing the H1B petition. The other thing is, now instead of requesting the H1B start date from October 1st, you could request it further also. Like for example, if you're filing the petition in the month of July, right? Then you can request the start date from December. So 6 months down further. So it can be past October 1st. Okay. Now I would like to take questions on this one so that I want to make sure it's clear.
I know, like, so dynamics are changing every moment when it comes to H1, right?
Yes.
So
after this, I'm going to discuss about a new RFE trend when it comes to H1B workers. So, but we can continue with
that is also one of the important things that now it's not easy to get an approval. So a lot of cases, though they are genuine and
as of now, it's still easy. I don't, because they've not been seeing a lot of difference as of now, but it could change.
Okay. Yeah. So do you foresee any delays in the immigration process because of the new modernization? So
Modernization, not necessarily, but we've been hearing news about a lot of layoffs happening at USCIS.
oh yeah, that could delay the process
That
of
could lead to delays. Yeah, that could lead to delays. But the processing time, I highly recommend filing the petitions online as much as possible, because if you file the petition online, the processing time is much shorter than doing paper filing. So in our case, we're trying to file as many cases as possible online only.
Yep. Okay, and see, when the ICE officers, FDND's visits or anything such, or immigration officers approach, usually anyone will get panicked, right?
Yeah.
That is the human tendency, like because it talks about their career and life
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
What rights does the visa holders have when they are approached by any ICE or FDNS visits? Or what kind of rights do they have?
Okay, so let's get to the ICE one first. Okay, so unfortunately, the ICE official who will be coming to the home, they are not well versed with the regulations. All they do is they take the instructions from their supervisor, then implement it. That's it. So if the supervisor says, go arrest this candidate, they'll go arrest a person. That's it. Okay, they don't know anything about the regulations. So what the individual can do is, if an ICE officer comes to you, give them the G28. Okay, if you have a G20 or if you're working with an attorney. Even as an attorney, right, when we talk to the ICE official, we can only convince them to a certain extent. What we typically do is there is something called OPLA, Office of Personal Legal Assistance. All right. They are the ones who provide all the instructions to the ICE officers. So if you have a contact at OPLA, okay, then OPLA can provide the instructions to the ICE officer so that we can delay the process and then provide more documentation to avoid any deportation. Okay, so when it comes to ICE, I know we can say a lot of things. Hey, you should just say this, but the actual student will be scared if an ICE officer comes to their doorsteps. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that is
that's why
going to
if there is
scare
a
them
nice
off.
official, just give them G28, let them talk to the attorney immediately. Okay, and then we can deal with them.
Excellent. Yeah, that because a lot of people usually get panicked.
Yes,
and
yes.
they get lost,
The
and
FDNS was yeah. I'm sorry. Good.
they get lost and they'll so confused. It's just that
Yeah.
they have to already, maybe it's a good idea to have someone if anticipating any such visits, like better hire an
Yes.
attorney, keep them ready to fight for you.
Yeah. Just have the G28 at least, and have a source where they can reach out to the attorney directly if needed.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay. And for those students who are impacted with service terminations, if they're staying here, I recommend that you sell your cars and be vigilant. Watch out for any ICE officials. We cannot advise anything more, but just be cautious.
So can you elaborate a bit about sell your car? What?
You become an easy target if you are driving in your own car.
Okay. Got it. Okay, I got the context. So
Okay.
maybe a lot of people already got it, but yeah. So I think with
You become
respect.
an easy target.
Correct. Yeah, H1B new modernization, I think pretty much most of our audiences and my questions are addressed, but maybe you can talk a little bit
So
about
you asked me about the FDNS visit also, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. FDN visit applies to H1B workers. Okay. As long as the worker is working in the position that's mentioned in the LCA and the advertisement petition, they're getting paid as per the LCA wage, and they are working from the location that they are that's mentioned in the LCA, they have nothing to worry.
Okay.
Okay. As long as they are working for the employer, as long as they're getting paid and working from the location that's mentioned in the LCA, they have nothing to worry. Okay. The other thing is they'll come, the officers, they're paying a trick. So basically they will come to the individual, they'll say, hey, how many hours do you work? How many projects do you work? Right? So typically what happens is some of the individuals, they work on multiple projects. Right? Maybe the individual, the H1B worker is working on 2 projects. So he gets confused. He says that I'm working 80 hours or maybe 40 hours. and then they'll check with the employer. The employer says something else, right? We have had situations where the beneficiary mentioned that he's working on 2 projects, right? And then they ask them, hey, how many hours do you work here? How many hours do you work here? Then he says that I'm working 80 hours. And then they reach out to the employer. They say, the employer says that since they're running the payroll for only 40 hours, they'll say that are we running it? The employee is working 40 hours. So there, it's actually a problem because you're actually lying to an officer. What they don't understand is, if the person is on H1B full-time, there is no restriction as to the number of hours that they can work over 40. So even if the employee is actually working for 80 hours, right? You can run their payroll for 40 hours because most of these positions are exempt. Okay, if a position is exempt, then the employer is not required to pay overtime to the candidate unless the employment agreement specifically calls out for paying overtime. Even if the employment agreement calls out for specific overtime requirement, the Department of Labor, neither Department of Labor nor FDNS officer has any right to question on that one. It's only the employee who can file a breach of contract claim in the court if they are not receiving overtime pay based on their employment agreement. Okay.
Sure. And now, yeah, most important topic, of course, right? The RFEs. So what is the trend that you're noticing now? And how do we address or avoid, just avoiding it's not in our hands anyways, but how do we address those RFEs?
So I'm not going to discuss about every RFE, but some peculiar RFEs that we have seen in the recent past. Okay. So we received RFEs for 2 cases regarding cap exemption. So in this case, the individual was on OPT. He applied for his H1B with the consent notification last year. Okay. Now he's trying to file cap exempt petition with a change of status request. Right? We used to do that all the time. And in these 2 cases, USCIS has issued an RFE stating that unless the person has held H1B status in the past, or they would have received a H1B visa stamping, they are not exempt. Okay, so we were able to respond to that RFE, but the cases were approved for consent notification. We could not get the change of status approved in both the cases. Okay, USCIS finally said that yes, like they agreed with us that they are exempt, but they not issue the change of state. They not approve the change of status, which is really weird because we have filed like a lot of these cases before. We never had any issues. Okay.
Got it.
Also, we have 2 incidents of H1B workers receiving peculiar RFE. Like for one of the worker, for some reason they are asking for his address. Okay, and in other case, in other person's information, they are asking for him to provide the biometrics again.
Oh, wow.
These 2 are peculiar. We have not seen this before. Okay, the common thing in these 2 cases is that they have been charged with a crime. In both cases, it was a DUI. Other than that, what are the? Yeah,
So
I cannot think of
that
any
just in
other
case someone has a past.
out of the normal RFEs except for these 2.
Right. So say like someone got a DUI in 2019 or 20. So that is going to still impact them just in case if they get an RFE, meaning like not necessarily, but
But
on a,
see, it is going to impact them, but does not mean that they will not be able to get a visa. Because just because a person has a DUI does not mean that they are inadmissible into the country.
okay.
Especially if it's a one-time DUI and that too not too much of alcohol content, blood alcohol content, and as long as there is no bodily injury or any thing like that.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much. And in
The other thing is,
time,
whenever, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, yeah, I think I'll let you complete that. Then I'll touch upon a few points.
The other thing is, whenever someone gets charged with a crime, please make sure to hire both a criminal attorney and an immigration attorney. Okay, so the reason being, or when you have worked with a criminal attorney, they will only look at from the criminal side. So I'll give a small example. Assume that somebody is charged with the shoplifting misdemeanor, right? So if you work with the criminal attorney will get a dismissal for that one, but there'll be a condition to it. For example, they may ask you to do some probation, right? And then the case might be dismissed and expunged too. But that will be considered as real dismissal when it comes to a criminal side. But when it comes to the immigration side, it's a conviction. Okay, and it could lead to other issues with immigration in future. So you got to be very careful with that one. Yeah, go ahead.
And one more thing is, someone gets a DUI or any maybe any offense, or they get a felony, they get into something like this. So is it required to inform their employers about it, or?
Well, not necessarily. Okay, not necessarily. It's not. They don't have to inform it to their employers. But DUIs, I recommend, like a lot of people, what they do is they hire an attorney and then they just try to get a plea deal. Okay, especially if the blood alcohol concentration is not too much. For example, if it's within 0.12 or point something like that, like if it's only 30-40% more, 20-30% more than the legal limit, then I recommend that you fight this case. Okay, because especially the blood alcohol content will vary from time to time, and depending on when you had the drink and then when they actually caught you and when they did the test, you may be able to argue that, hey, you did not have so much of concentration actually when the person was actually driving. I'll give a small example. Assume that I have a drink now, right? Immediately I start driving, right? My blood alcohol content would not be 0.08. But if I wait for a couple of hours, then it's going to increase. Right? But that is only applicable if you are at the border, not like, for example, if you have a lot of drinks, then it doesn't apply. But if you're at the border, then I recommend fighting it out.
Okay.
Because you don't want these on your record.
Right. Great. And so, yeah, in the interest of time, so I know like we have a lot to talk about green cards and naturalization, but we already talked about a lot of important things than green card right now. So instead of, like talking, deep diving into green card thing, so I have a few questions that you could address. And so how does that, like, current, whatever this current, based on current situation, like, do you foresee any challenges in green card applications delaying, and also the naturalization application denials? Do you anticipate that it's going to happen, or impact in a big way?
Okay. First, let me discuss about one important thing for naturalization, and then I'll get to the green cards. Okay. When you're applying for naturalization, make sure you don't have any crime in the last 5 years. Zero. Try to keep it that way. In that way, it's foolproof. Make sure you do not have any criminal convictions in the last 5 years. Okay. So usually, and then it comes to green card holders, right? Usually, green card holders will get in trouble for these reasons. One, if they stay outside the country for more than 1 year. Okay. Usually 6 months is not an issue, but after 6 months, they might question you through second inspection, like you have to go to second inspection and all that stuff. But if you stay outside the country for more than 1 year, then you may have to go for returning resident visa, which could be a challenge because a lot of people are receiving denials for that. Okay. Second thing is, if you plan on staying outside the country for more than 1 year, then I highly recommend that you apply for a re-entry permit before you leave the country. Okay. Make sure you receive the receipt notice for the re-entry permit before leaving the country, because if you leave the country after applying and before receiving the receipt notice, then the petition will be denied. A lot of people are doing that mistake. So please wait until you receive the receipt notice, then only travel outside the country. Third thing, make sure you're not charged with any crime involving moral turpitude, right? Like maybe a tax fraud, right? Or maybe shoplifting, or something like that. Anything to do with criminal intent, bad intent, any crime that has to do with bad intent. DUIs and reckless should be fine, but I would still recommend that you avoid those as much as possible. But stay away, completely stay, like, do not take any chances with crime involving murder turpitude. Also, with domestic violence case, stay away from these as much as possible.
All right. And what would be the one piece of advice that you would like to give to the all our audiences and who are like long-term prospect to stay in US and individuals that are
See,
navigating for the green
visas,
card?
this is my advice. Okay. Getting a visa and being allowed to stay in the country is not your right if you're an immigrant. Okay. Consider it as a privilege, not as a right. Okay. You will have the privilege only as long as you are abiding by the rule of the law, rule of the land. Right? If you violate any rules of the land, then your privilege could be taken away at any point of time. Right? So most of the people who got affected with this are in some way or the other have some way or the other violated the rule of the land. Right? So as long as you do not violate any rules, you should be fine.
Excellent. Great. Thank you so much for all your insights. And I know like our audiences also have a lot of questions, participants have a lot of questions. So maybe we could take another 15 minutes if that is okay. Then with your permission, like we will take some questions from the audience. I will
Sure.
Or
now,
they can also email, like at later point of time, they can send an email if they have any questions. I can give you my email address. It's info@somireddy.com. Take a few questions, but like, yeah.
okay, thank you so
Sure.
much. And now I'll pass on to Somesh and Vinod. They are like part of our core team. These are one of our RVP. So over to you, Vinod. Maybe you take a few questions that which are not repeated, which are already addressed by Attorney Santosh, and we can ask a few questions from our participants.
Sure.
Over to
Thank you,
Vinod and
Somireddy Garu, for sharing the valuable insights on the latest modernization rules and the various aspects. And we got bunch of questions from the audience, almost 25 questions, but at high level, right? So the latest question that I had was, I'm on H1B. Any new guidelines for H1, H4 children?
No, there's nothing new except for the fact that they have registered if they cross like 14 years, like as if they're not fingerprinted after they turn 14, just registered for the biometrics. That's all they need to do. Apart from that, there is no other special. There is no specific changes that's coming right now.
Sure. Thank you.
And
So,
also, please make sure to file Form AR11 whenever there is a change in your home address. A lot of people are not doing that. Now they are taking it very seriously.
sure. Thank you, Andy.
And if at all, and I also recommend that everybody, whether they are on H1B, green card, F1, please make sure to carry some sort of documentation to show your status in the country. It could be in the form, it could be in your phone also. Just have a copy of your H1B uploaded in your phone, or green card copy in your phone, something like that.
Okay, so the question around that is another one, like, does H1B, H4 EAD, H4 visa holders also need to register? And my son is 12 years old.
Not needed in this case because they have already been fingerprinted at the port of entry, so they don't have to register. And since your son is only 12, he doesn't have to.
Thank you. Also, how can we do self-criminal background check?
There are a lot of websites. Just type in online, you'll find plenty of websites that can help you with criminal background check. All the employers also do it on your behalf. So any employer can provide you with the details, or there are a bunch of them. If you want, I can provide, like I have one that, give me 1 second. Can give you one of the names. Someone just sent it to me. Yeah, it's called evalright.us. I think it's owned by some Telugu person. So evalright.us. I'm typing it here.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Evalright.us.
Thank you. Going to the next question, Andy. So received NOIR for approved extension petition, had an approved location change amendment followed by extension petition, and employer is going to respond to NOIR. Is approved location change amendment still valid? If not, what are the options available for H1B is if it is revoked?
So I am assuming that he received NOIR for the first petition, and then before that petition got revoked, they filed for amendment. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct.
If that amendment is approved, he doesn't have to worry.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's
one
it.
more question, sir. What are the best practices for port of entry for when the kids, when the parents are coming or when the green card people are coming back to the country? Best practices at the port of entry.
Yeah, green cards, I'm not worried too much because there are a lot more rights than the parents who are coming into the country, right?
Yeah.
So parents, if they're coming into the country, make sure they don't carry stuff like pickles and all that stuff. Make sure they have a return ticket to go back to their home country, and try to keep it like around 5 months. 6 months is also fine, but I recommend keeping it around five months or something like that, so that they don't think that, hey, you're trying to use maximum period. And the other thing is, if they are traveling often to the US, make sure they spend more amount of time in India than in the US.
Carrying gold or jewelry that doesn't impact anything.
Well, you got to be careful with that one, because jewelry is, but as long as they declare it, they should be fine.
Okay.
If it's a new jewelry, make sure to declare it, and you may have to pay the tax on that one.
Okay. This SEVIS reinstatement, they can check on our social media posts based on the social media. They can deny for the F1 students. They
Yeah,
have
if they are speaking about something, or if they are liking some posts that are against the interests of the country, yes, it could happen, because that is one thing why that is one of the main reasons why they're cracking down on all these students, right?
Okay.
As I mentioned, visa is a privilege, not a right.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there is another question from the audience, Santosh. So I am on STEM OPT, valid till December 2025. I got H1B through counselor processing last year. Ongoing issues on OPT. Should I change to H1B now or wait and do stamping later?
Well, I recommend that you apply for a change of status to H1B. Don't wait too long, because you never know. Based on the current situation, if you have a proper job, then move to H1B.
Okay,
But
makes sense.
again, if you are
So,
not been convicted of any crime or nothing like that, then you can continue being on OPT also. That way you can avoid on your taxes. You can save on your
sure.
taxes.
Sure, thank you, Andy. So the other question is, my spouse I-94 expired for H4 visa and left exactly on the 180th day from US, and what are the next steps to get her back to USA?
Okay, we need to discuss this separately, because if they has it been 180 days since the I-94 has expired?
Yeah, after expiry of
Yes, so that's the last.
I-94, yes, she went back on your 180th day.
Okay, then
After,
she could be barred for 3 years, because it depends upon how you calculate the 180 days.
Sure, I think they will reach out directly to your email, Santosh garu.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is another question from audience.
Somebody
I'm
mentioned
lawful
this to me that, hey, there is somebody with AP. His name is AP. He mentioned somebody says flying Etihad Airways is good as immigration is done in Abu Dhabi. No, it's not good. I recommend that you avoid that one, because if there is any issue, for example, we have had situations where somebody like, say, H1B holder, right? He had some pickles or whatever, because of which he had to go through second inspection. when you go through second inspection, then there's a chance that they will check other stuff, and then if there is a delay, then it could be a problem, right? They might find some reason or other to deny the person's entry into the country. So I would recommend that you avoid Abu Dhabi, if at all possible.
Sure, thank you, Andy. So there is another question from audience. I am lawful permanent resident, LPR, for past 3 years. Unfortunately, had to enroll into unemployment insurance or benefits since March 2025 due to unemployment. I would like to know if any adverse impact with cancelling lawful permanent resident status or entry denial at port of entry if we go to India in next 2 months with unemployment insurance or benefits, or if we get job before going to India.
Well, these should not affect his travel. Okay, but in future when he is applying for citizenship, it could affect depending on the situation, because I don't know if that unemployment insurance is being provided by his employer or is it a public benefit that he's taking. So depending on that, if it's provided by it's part of his employer's this thing, I don't have any problem. But if it's something that he's getting it from the government, then it could be a challenge when he's applying for citizenship. Right now, it's not a problem, but it could become a problem in future, especially with this administration. So
Okay,
just stay away from receiving any public benefits as much as possible until you become a US citizen.
makes sense.
So, one more question, sir. For H1 visa holders, if they have multiple assets in the United States, and if they're, for example, if the people are having like multiple homes or multiple residents, which are not showing as a rental income, all are like showing as a primary incomes, does it affect their employment visa denial or port of entry, those kind of things?
Okay. Here is what I would say. There's a lot of misconception about this one. A H1B holder can be a passive investor in any company. Okay, but they cannot be an active investor. I'll give you the difference, right? Assume that there's a H1B holder who opens an LLC. That LLC owns a bunch of his rental properties, right? That's perfectly fine as long as he's not managing those, right? He just rents it out on a yearly basis. That's it. He's not managing those properties. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Whereas somebody who owns an IT company while on H1B, you cannot say that you're a passive investor in that one, because for an IT company, most of you'll have to work for that company now to build it, right? So to answer your question, if they have any properties in the US, maybe I would recommend that if they can either directly own it or they can own it through a company and be a passive investor. That's not a problem.
Sure, thank you, Andy. So also adding to that, also if wife is on H4 EAD, right, they can still able to be on the title, and they can be a passive investor, right?
Yeah.
And and their wife can be able to collect the rents and all.
Yeah, they can do it. That's not an issue at
Yeah,
all.
thanks. Yeah, thank you. So also there is another question from audience. I heard that SEVIS terminations were done based on FB posts and WhatsApp chats. Is there any truth to the rumors? Can you kindly enlighten about that too?
No, because all the service terminations that I have seen so far are because a person has been either fingerprinted or arrested. So
Okay.
I have not seen anyone who did not was never fingerprinted or arrested being affected with this.
Okay, thank you. So the other question, my son who is 17 years with AOS status, should I need to enroll?
Enroll in what?
AOS.
There is
Adjustment of
maybe
status. Adjustment of status.
Okay, he has a pending adjustment of status. What is your question?
If he is a 17-year-old son, he has to make a adjustment of status, or just he can continue with the H4. Or that, I think that's the question.
Well, if he is eligible, then better to go for adjustment of status, right? If your prior date is current, then better to go for adjustment of status.
Sure, thank you, Andy. So there is another question. Can
So,
you
Vinod,
also
sorry
shed
to
light?
interrupt, and maybe we could take two more questions, and we can stop because
Yeah.
we'll just go on forever.
Sure,
And
we are almost done. Yeah, I understand. So we are almost done. So I'll take the top questions maybe. So this is Mahati. Can master student can get the O1A visa?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay. So can we give some information about G325 submission and how it will impact on kids?
It should not have any impact on people who are legally present in the US.
Okay.
If you're legally
Also,
present in the US, then it should not have any impact on you. So if in doubt,
okay.
I recommend registering. This is what I'm telling a lot of clients. Like if you have any doubt, just register it. There's nothing wrong in it, right? It's not like you're losing anything by registering, right? So once you register, you'll be asked to come for biometrics. Just go attend the biometrics, and that's it.
Sure. So this is the last question. I heard that some parents are also getting held up at the port of entry, even with a GC. What are some of the rules that the parents may have broken in this
Yeah.
scenario?
So if the parents are actually staying outside the US for a longer time, and especially in this, most of the times, what happens is the parents will not be working in the US, they will not be filing taxes, they will not have a residence. So that's where the problem is happening. Like, so if they see that there is the parents are coming just to the US only to maintain the green card, then they are asking them whether they want to maintain the green card or give up the green card so that they can come back on a B1, B2.
Sure. Thank you. The last
So
question, can I
my
take?
advice, if your parents do not intend to stay in the US, then maybe it's better for them to just travel on B1, B2.
Sure. Thank you. So what is align registration and ARM 11 form?
alien registration.
Alien
Alien
registration.
registration is different. AR11 form is just to update your address.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Sure.
last
Thank you.
question, sir. My visa was revoked in May. I got RFE in December. They approved my OPT. Is there a chance to terminate my by SEVIS?
Okay. So the fact that your visa was revoked shows that you have been charged with some crime. Okay. There is a high chance that your service could be terminated. It may not have happened as of now. So, but there is a chance. So depend if your H1B is already picked up, then I recommend that you apply for a H1B change of state with change of status immediately under premium processing before your service is terminated.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Andy. We have a lot of questions. I think we'll
I think
send
maybe
the
if they
Send
have
me
email.
any pressing issues, maybe they can reach out to Attorney Santosh Garu offline. We
Right.
already have his email ID info@somireddylaw.com. So yeah, and yeah, thanks to TTA leadership for this wonderful platform. Say we were able to help the community navigating to all the challenge that we're facing day in day out. And special call out Santosh Garu. Thanks for valuable time. I know you are in India. So though it was too early for you, you are able to accommodate our request. Thank you so much, and all the insights that you have provided are enlightening. I'm sure like this helps our attendees and the community members in a big way. And thanks to all the attendees, and your presence and enthusiasm definitely means a lot. And we still have an average of 130 people till the end of the session. That means a lot. And thank you everyone whoever joined this webinar, and we are looking forward to more such insightful sessions that helps our community. Let's all grow together. And once again, thanks to our leadership team and Abhinana, and thanks to our Arizona chapter team who are have actively involved in this. And also as a national chair for legal and immigration, so I take it as a privilege to host this session. And thank you everyone. And Santosh Garu, so I have flight safe back to US. We need you. And I'm sure like your inbox would be already full, so take care of all our participants and help them out. So
Sure.
thank you everyone. Thank you, and have a good night, and looking forward for more such wonderful sessions.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you everyone.